What is going on, beauties? My name, of course, is Bernsey. Good to see you, glad to have you. Welcome to the first edition of YouTube Stories. It's going to be a series where I go all the way back 9 years ago and work our way forward, telling you stories of my adventures and experience on YouTube. Today is more of a test story to see if you guys would enjoy something like this, and the reason I chose this particular story is because it's something that I learned very recently. So obviously we have to start at the beginning to get to the conclusion of this story, and I would say this began about the release of Black Ops 2, and I don't think I've ever said this publicly on a YouTube video. I may have mentioned it on Twitter before or on a podcast, but during my time on YouTube, I was swatted on 2 different occasions. I'm sure most of you know what the term swatting means, but in case you don't, it is the act of calling in a fake emergency call to 911 in an attempt to have armed police and SWAT teams and other emergency services sent to a certain address. In case your intelligence is low and you think this might be a funny prank, just know that you can get 20 years in prison, and someone recently did. Not the person we're talking about, but you can get in a lot of severe trouble for doing something like this. Now, I say I was swatted twice because it affected me personally, but I actually was not present at either of the incidents. The first one happened at my parents' residence, which I haven't resided at in quite some time, and the second one was at a former college address that I hadn't resided at in quite some time. So I'm sure you can imagine the terrified confusion of my parents and who was ever residing at the college address, because it's not every day, and when I say not every day, I mean it never happens to normal people, is having armed police show up at your house and order you out of your home. So this affected me in 2 different ways. One, obviously, it's my family that it's happening to, and second, it's my name that was mentioned on the police call that I was some sort of threat. So I had to be interviewed by police for the one at my parents' and at the one at my former college address. Luckily, it was pretty obvious to police that there was no emergency taking place at this residence. Number 1, I don't live there. Number 2, I am not even in the state at the time. I believe I was in California, so I'm nowhere near this situation that is possibly happening. And in the second incident, I hadn't lived at that address in over 4 years. But the thing about the second one was it was a small town that I had lived in this college town, and the police there, nothing interesting really happened. So the guy who called to interview me, he was determined to try to solve this case, which I actually appreciated. So during my interview, I was like, look, I know you're really serious about solving this case, but you honestly just don't have the resources, and the people that do this cover their tracks pretty well, and you just don't have the time, the resources, the money to even get close to this person. But I appreciate your concern, and I'm okay. So let's describe how this made me feel, especially in the first incident, because I actually had family members who lived at the address that this happened. So this situation was not only frustrating, but very, very infuriating. When I found out it happened and I was talking to my mom on the phone, whew, I was heated. I had this fantasy starting to play out in my head where the local police pass it on to the FBI. They find out who it is. They invite me to the raid for some reason, throw a bulletproof vest on me. I'm coming in hot. But obviously this was a fantasy and not really going to happen. They did assign a detective from the local police to take the case, and I swear to you, I was emailing this man 3 times a week for updates. And much like the police in the smaller town, they also do not have the resources to really pursue an investigation on this case. But I did get a little bit of hope when he let me know that they were passing it on to someone from the FBI. Keep in mind, this is about a couple of months after this had happened, so I'm at that point where I'm like, oh, I want to get this guy, and I just don't care anymore. It was just getting to a point where it was all I could think about. It was all I could focus on. Every time I would check my email for an update, or I would browse my Twitter or social media trying to find clues on my own, I was trying to do my own investigation, and I have no police training whatsoever, and I'm not qualified to do any of that. Eventually, I had just gotten over it. I was like, this is fine. I'm just gonna get over it. I'm gonna continue on with my life. I'm convinced you're not gonna find anything, and even if you did, you're probably not gonna do anything about it anyway. Until I had a breakthrough of my own. So one day I'm just browsing my old Twitter mentions. I'm just scrolling, and I notice that there is an egg Twitter account, a Twitter account with no photo, that had been just sending harassing tweets like 4 or 5 times a day. And it was obvious they were trying to get a reaction out of me. So I clicked on their profile, and this is what I found. Not only did he appear to be obsessively sending me harassing tweets multiple times a day, but the other people he spoke with on Twitter seemed to be people who enjoyed the art of hacking. There also seemed to be a lot of conversations among these people about swatting pranks. It seemed like a competition to them. A competition to not only swat someone, but to hack the very people that they're talking to. It became like a hacker competition. And I came across one man who had actually sent a screenshot to the person's account that was sending harassing tweets to me with their full name and their address and telling them to just back off and that they were some amateur wannabe hacker. So obviously I got very, very curious, and I thought, the police have done nothing for me. They don't have the resources to pursue a case like this. I'm just gonna check out for myself. So I decided to dial the number, and I called several different times and I mostly got voicemails, probably because this is his parents' address. This man is probably between 15 and 18 years old living at home. But one day, I actually got him on the phone while his parents were at work. To this day, I really wish I would have been recording, but I didn't think of it at the time. So he answers the phone and I say, "Is this so-and-so?" He says, yeah, who is this? I said, "Is this so-and-so?" And he just goes, "Is this Minnesota Burns?" And I said, "Yeah, aren't you the one that called in a swatting prank?" "Yeah." "Well, why did you do that?" I don't know." And then he hung up. And I'm just jumping for joy. I got this man. I did it by myself. No thanks to you, police. And so the original local police officer, the detective, I emailed him and said, "Look, this is what I did. I found it just through looking on social media. He admitted to me that he did it. Can we get this passed on?" In the meantime, while I am waiting for a reply, thinking this is a sure thing, this man's gonna get this house busted, and I start replaying that fantasy in my mind, like, "Oh, the FBI is gonna invite me. I want to be there. If they don't invite me, I'm definitely asking. Throw that bulletproof vest on me. I want to be there. I just want to just have the slyest little grin on my face and just wave to him and smile as he's carried out in cuffs." But as I'm waiting for the reply from the local police department, I'm doing all sorts of research. I'm trying to see, where in the state that I found him in. Does he live? What do his parents do for a living? And it just hypes me up. I'm doing jazz hands as I'm telling the story, but I find out that his dad is some bigwig at an investment bank, and his house is worth like $5 million something. And once they arrest this man, what's his parents gonna think? That they raised some no good hacker who pulls swatting pranks on people and putting emotional stress on other families that they don't even know. Maybe this turns into a civil case later on and I sue him for every penny he's got and I take his house and everything. But unfortunately, this is where the story takes an unfortunate turn. The local police don't do anything about it. I don't even get a response from him. And the problems get worse as I find out this was not just some swatting prank. So whoever found out all the information about like where my parents lived and everything like that, they started trying to dig into more things about their lives, and it turned into an identity theft situation. And I won't go into too many details about that because it's just going to make me mad, but it was a very stressful, frustrating, that's an understatement to say it was stressful and frustrating. It is a terrible thing to have your identity stolen. And so after all that, we all got like free identity theft protection from the credit agencies to prevent any future things like this happening. But here comes the happier ending of this story. Despite all the stress that was put on myself and my family, there is a happy ending today. So all of these events lead to a single person using credit cards, ATM withdrawals to defraud people out of a total of $27,000. Recently, my mom sent me a text message with a screenshot of a letter that she got, and I'll just read a little bit of it for you. The enclosed information is provided by the United States Department of Justice Victim Notification System. As a victim witness professional, my role is to assist you with information and services during the prosecution of this case. I am contacting you because you were identified by law enforcement as a victim or potential victim during the investigation of the above criminal case. The sentencing hearing of defendant Latrice Colvin has been set for December 5th, 2019 at 10 a.m. If you are a victim of the charged offenses and wish to speak at sentencing, please call our office well in advance of the scheduled hearing date. At time of sentencing, Colvin faces a maximum term of imprisonment of 30 years. Colvin is released on a $25,000 bond pending sentencing. So while they didn't catch the person that I would have preferred, at least at the end of the day, there is some justice. And that concludes my story today, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a like rating below, and if you would like to suggest a story you want me to tell, let me know in the comments section below. I hope you have an absolutely wonderful, beautiful, perfect rest of your day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.